This is the strategy that works. We've been doing this for the last 3.5 years, and it's going to get the most levels of engagement.
This cause I say it respectfully. It's time to eat up, right like a speeder, taking it deeper, and that's how it better be. I never let the comparison get to me. I just remember the promises meant for me. I know the enemy and that he's sent for me. I keep the blood of the lambs my centerpiece. I cannot trust in no crystals or energy. Look at the chemistry, it do not even mix chemically. Most of the tricks they be gimmicks, they mimic the truth. It's poison and we got the remedy.
And what we're looking for is people that are hungry, wanting to hustle, wanting to break through walls, wanting to go after that legendary status.
Show me the chicken, I'm frying it. They say you ain't about it. Tell them that you finna make it, but they doubt it. But God did it. But you rose like the flower. Tell me what it's like to live with superpowers. I don't know, but I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I just know that I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it.
What's up, guys? I'm Kyle Milan. It's Tuesday, so we're here to talk about industrial marketing. We good, Laura? Laura says we're good, so we're good. All right, guys, for those of you that are new to the content, I come live every Tuesday. Now, this Tuesday will be the last industrial marketing topic conversation until 2025. The reason for that being there is so much going on here. We're going to keep shooting content and keep producing stuff for you guys so that way you're getting the most benefit, but it's going to be off of lives. We're taking a break until January. The first week of January, we'll come back because we're pounding out a lot of new systems, a lot of new integrations, things like that. That is taking attention away, so we need to focus on that. Plus, most of you guys are going to be checked out anyways for the next 5-6 weeks. So for those of you that are new to the content, head over to YouTube, or if you're on YouTube, make sure you turn that subscribe button to red, turn on notifications. I've got over 1,900 videos on the YouTube channel strictly talking about industrial marketing and industrial sales. Here to give you all the tips, tricks, strategies, everything that we do on a daily basis that works at MFG Tribe and the clients that we are serving. Today's topic, understanding the difference between vanity metrics and real ones. I have talked about this before. I talked about this at the MT Forecast event where I presented one session for 3 hours, another session for 45 minutes. It always shocks people, makes people feel uncomfortable when I come and say that they don't know what's going on in their own business. But you guys need to take a step back and look at the truth at what you're doing. And I'm going to highlight some things for you. So number one, let's define it. What color do we want to do, Justin? Oh, we're doing blue. What, are you guys making some swords over here? You guys fighting in the studio? All right, number one. You want me to stand on this side? Is this good? Number one. What is a vanity metric? I don't know. That's an R. I don't know if this is like a term. Maybe somebody can Google search it. Or did I make it up? Or did I hear it like years ago? I've been using this for years. But what it basically means is a vanity metric is something that looks good, but doesn't actually do anything. So an example would be traffic growth to your website, number of impressions, just straight up impressions, number of, doesn't matter if it's impressions organically, impressions on social, impressions on PPC, just like super high level data that doesn't really tell the story and doesn't really tell you exactly what you're looking for. But it's like, oh wait, how many impressions did we have on that? How many likes did we get? Like even getting into engagement. So when we break it down, the vanity metrics often give you a false sense of hope or a false sense of reality that makes you think that you're going down the right path when actually you aren't. And so that a lot of companies, it gets them so far before they realize like, oh shit, this actually is not going down the right path. This isn't working. But on the surface level, it looked like it was, but really when I dig through it, it's not. It's no different when you deal with like anything in business. Like as you peel back the layers of the onion, or as you really dive deep into something, you look at how things work, or the efficiencies of things, or the way that people are operating, or the performance of people or processes or whatever, even in sales, as you peel it back, it should show like deeper and deeper supporting information that says why whatever it is that you think is working is actually working. If on the surface you're like, this is working, we're going down the right path, but as you keep asking questions and dig through it, it should, everything that you turn up should be like, yep, that makes sense why that is doing that. It's good. And what it does for marketers and really anybody reporting data is, besides giving a false sense of hope and reality, the downside to that is you lose time. And so if time is equal for every single person, there's 24 hours in a day and 365 days in a year, and the deciding factor of movement, growth, etc., success, depending on whatever your definition is what's done within that same that static variable that does not change for everybody, right? That's the denominator, is you all get this much time. Then what you end up doing is losing time because you thought, yeah, this is going good. And then when you realize it's not, that's where you're like, damn, I just wasted 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Take this into from an employee standpoint. You have an employee, you're like, this is going good, this is going good, this is going good. And then it's not. And then when you look back through the eyes of like, oh, this wasn't going good, and you look back at it and you're like, oh, wait, here's all the things that showed me this wasn't going good. And therefore I should have caught those before, but I didn't, but now it's too late and the damage is done, etc. But going back to the marketing side is like, we try and define what are the metrics that are going to determine success. It's a great question to ask anybody from the get-go. We ask it to clients, and a lot of times it could be like, we're just looking for brand growth. So if you're just looking for brand growth, then you can go with those fluffy vanity metrics and be like, is everything going up? We're just focusing on brand recognition, growth, brand lift, etc. Then maybe those are the KPIs that matter. But you really got to define like, how do I measure success in this endeavor, and put some definition behind it. And if a marketing agency comes to you and is like, yeah, every month for what we report impressions, and we report number of clicks, and we report all this stuff. Sure, all agencies do that, but if that's how they define success, then you got an issue. Then I'll tell you that you're probably working with somebody that's not going to go down the right path. So now that we understand what a vanity metric is, what are we going to do with it, or how are we going to change it? So this is where you got to go into KPIs per vertical. And so what if I told you that so like we report every month for our clients, and we implement a new system where it's got like a dashboard, and the dashboard shows everything. So it shows a dashboard for web, a dashboard for SEO, a dashboard for PPC, a dashboard for landing pages, all this stuff, right? And it shows all this information. And you report with the client, you're like, hey, here's what we saw. This is good. This is bad. These are things that we're going to change. These are things we're not. Here's what we did over the past month, etc. So you're going through that. But if I was to sum it all up and take like 8 or 9 or 20 dashboards total, where you've got stuff for email, marketing email, sales sequences, deals, SEO, web, PPC, articles, like all these different dashboards. And I was to say, can you summarize in one dashboard whether or not we're successful? Then you start to look at KPIs per vertical. And so KPIs per vertical is like, what is one thing in one vertical of marketing, whether it's PPC or SEO or web or whatever? What's one thing, not 30 things, what's one thing that could define whether or not we're moving in the right direction? And so start there. So for web, it could be, you look at all of the data for the last 12 months, 24 months, however much historical, you're like, what's one number that I want to track that's going to say, are we going in the right direction? And maybe that one number is impressions, but that's not going to tell the whole story. That's still a vanity metric. But you're like, I'm focusing on getting more people to the site. And maybe you're like, hey, dude, I can't do one, but I can do 2. So we want to increase the amount of people, that's impressions, or users. So you've got new users, returning users, which total up to impressions, or visitors, sessions, as GA4 would call it. So you got total sessions, but then I want quality people. So I'm trying to get traffic to the site, increase sessions, but I want quality people, pages per session or time on site or engagement percentage, right? So maybe for web, I'm just saying I want to look at total sessions or total users and the engagement percentage. Those two things can tell me if this is working or not. I don't need 13 reports. I don't need 6 pages to get me there. I just need to know those two things. So, okay, cool. So for web, let's write that up there because we're gonna break this out. So for web, here, I'll write this way. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So for web, we want to know users and we want to know engagement. And so what the users is going to tell you is that you're doing something with marketing to get more people to the site. What engagement is going to tell you is that you are the people are spending more time on your site, going to more pages. So that's cool. So that's for web. That's an easy one. Let's look at social. What matters most when it comes to social? And so for me, a lot of people are like, oh, I want engagement. Okay, but it's hard to see a lot of movement with engagement given the audience of industrial. They're not super engaging. People aren't like, oh my God, I love this new feature that you rolled out on this ERP software. And they're like a plant manager and ops person. That just doesn't happen. So for social, by default, you would be like, I want to look at followers and I want to look at impressions. Because growing more followers is kind of like engagement, right? Because you can track that. Like I went from 500 to 600 versus I went from, let's say, 0.8% to 1.1%. Like that's still a 20% growth. But like, if you're like, I don't want to track these numbers of engagement, I want to track followers, you could. But impressions is where it's at because on social, you're not looking, they're not going to take action, right? This because of what you sell and what you do. They're not going to be like, oh, they clicked and bought. But you could also say traffic to site. So you could say how many users went from social to web. So you can track that in social. Well, that's just a referral. How many people referred to it? For PPC, same thing. And this is a process that everybody should go through. How can I identify 2 metrics or 1 metric? For this, you don't want to track, like initially, to get like fingers on the pulse, 1 dashboard. I know all the data is important, but fingers on the pulse. For PPC, I want to know conversions, right? Or leads, that's like number 1. But most importantly, I want to know after they've converted, MQL to SQL. So that's a simple story of I brought somebody into the site and I converted them from a lead to an actual qualified lead. And then let's look at like CRM with deals, deal management, total overall deals. You've got number of deals, you've got source of deals, and you've got close won. So those are just like some examples of how you guys should be thinking about this. If I have this whole team of marketing people, whether it's internally a team of 20 or a whole agency or 2, and I just wanted to know, sum it all up. I don't want to look through a report. I don't want to look through numbers. I don't want to look through any of that. Oh, one other one, SEO. But I don't want to look through any of this. I just want to know. So SEO, you could just say average position. Why is this thing so shaky? This thing's a no. We need a smart whiteboard, guys. Put it on the budget, 2025. So with SEO, average position, you're like, Kyle, what does that even mean? So you don't want to go to like Search Console and say, give me the average position of everything that you're showing me up for. You want to look at SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever you're tracking with and say, these 50 keywords, this is what matters to me. These keywords are going to drive growth. What's my average position with those keywords? I went from 18.9 to 16.2 over 2 months. That's good. I'm lowering the average position to get to number one. So if somebody's like, I don't want to know all the fluff, I don't want to know all the data, I don't want to look at multiple page report. Okay, cool. Here's one dashboard that's going to show the specific KPIs that matter to you, that you can tell you, an executive, a marketing leader, a coordinator, doesn't matter your position, it can tell you, are we successful? And so creating a dashboard that says, hey, here's the number of users and engagement. SEO, here's your average position based on the keywords that we're tracking. Here's the total number of new deals, where they're from, and what's been won. Here's the number of leads or conversions on PPC, and how many of them converted into an actual deal. So you've got two levels of conversion. You got lead conversion from a click to a lead, right? And then you've got, once they convert to a lead, then you've got the side of it, do they convert to a deal? Is it the right type of lead? And then on the LinkedIn side and social, it's like, I want to know, are my followers growing, people that retain the information and want to follow, and my total impressions. And then maybe you say, I also want to know how many people are going to my site from it. Usually in industrial, that doesn't happen a ton. I could grab 3 clients and be like, hey, they're getting 6,000 people to their site a month. They have a strong LinkedIn presence, good engagement, they get good deals from social. Be like, hey, I saw your stuff on social, but look at the number of people that click the visit website from there to go to their site. It's minimal. It could be like 60 out of 8,000. But if I look at the deals, it's like, hey, how did you find out about us? Oh, I saw your stuff on LinkedIn, then I looked you up, which just means they Google searched your name, and then they went to your site. So that should correlate. If you look at your organic traffic to a branded search phrase, that should correlate. Hey, our branded search phrase, people are typing our name in more. More impressions, more clicks, more traffic from that. Organically, it's increasing, maybe because they saw it on LinkedIn, maybe because they saw it on YouTube. But you have to look at this and be like, I don't want to pay attention to like all of this stuff. Now we have to prove our worth every single month for our clients. Are they paying us good money to get good results? So we may have one data board or dashboard that sums up the KPIs from each vertical, but then we have supporting stuff below it because some people want to see the data. So you may have 8, 10, 12, 14 pages of graphs, 1 or 2 for each vertical, for each effort that you're doing, that support the first number at top, but just like fingers on the pulse, hey, is this working or not? Check out this board. You can see if it is or isn't. That's the way to do it. It's the best, most efficient way to do it. We're going to be making an adjustment to our process here internally to where that's going to be part of it. And we're just going to be like, this is the best information. This one board sums it all up. Now we can go deeper into it to explain what those numbers mean. But for clients, they're like, dude, I don't need to know that. I just need to know, are we going down the right path or not? Hey, here's a link. This thing's live. It updates every 60 minutes. You can see it. Last month, last 14 days, last quarter, quarter over quarter, month over month, year over year, all that stuff is in there. So you can look at it when you want. Here's one board that'll tell you, is this working or not, in 8 numbers, 6 numbers, 12 numbers, depending on how many different things you're doing. And that brings me up to point number 3, which is going to be the system. This is where people can get it wrong. Your system for tracking all of that information is important. Important because if you don't have a system that's tracking that, then how can you possibly know what's going on? So step number 1 is going to be define or agree that vanity metrics are bullshit. And you need to be tracking what's actually going to move the needle for you, what's going to bring in more revenue if that's what you're going after. Number 2, define the KPIs for the verticals. And if you don't want to do it internally and you have an agency that does it for you, ask them to define it. If I wanted to measure your success, agency ABC, how would you guys do it per vertical? I just want one KPI. Google search the stuff you can read all about it. This is like nothing new. This is just KPI tracking, performance, goals, etc. This is standard. Just applying it to marketing, specifically with industrial. So give me one KPI, one measurable. For those of you that are out there that are EOS companies, or have heard of EOS, we are an EOS organization. We just passed our 12-month mark last month, right, Laura? Didn't we implement end of October last year? So EOS is entrepreneurial operating system. It's a whole thing. A lot of companies use it, but it's not really talked about widely. But in EOS, they 20 years ago focused on scorecards, metrics. So when you meet with your team, you're like, what's the scorecard? And what's a KPI that's important to you? Well, for a video, I want to track number of videos I published. And I want to track how many watch time hours a week. And we've probably got, I don't even know, 200 metrics that we track internally for us and for our clients on a weekly basis within departments to see, is this going on down the right path or not? You should really look it up if you're interested in EOS. Great books out there about it. It's a great system. We implemented it a year ago and it's been working out great. So you got to track the KPIs, and it's no different when creating a scorecard. If I wanted to measure your success as an employee, what matters most, right? Looking at each person. What are 3 things that I want to track your performance on? Your output, your deliverables, like the goals that you have. I want to do this many things. I want it to take me less time to do this. Right now I'm averaging 2.5 days. I want to get it down to 1.5 days. You have to look at each individual person, department, etc., and be like, what is something that I can track, a measurable, that says when I look at it, it's going in the right path. So you have to determine those KPIs per vertical, ideally 1, but a lot of times it's going to be 2. Then you have to have a system to put all that in. There are tons of systems out there with reporting software. I feel like that's like the most, the busiest SaaS program out there in the marketing world is like reporting, because there's so many options. So you got to find something that works for you, or just do it through something like HubSpot or your CRM system. But you got to track what are those, and you got to be looking at them on a consistent basis, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. You got to have all those things together. So removing the vanity metrics, going after the KPIs, reviewing the information where it's easily accessible. That is the way that you're going to grow and succeed and start actually seeing real results. Now, how you get those results, go back to all my videos on YouTube and I tell you how to get there. And be sure you subscribe and follow me on LinkedIn, so that way next year when we start rolling out fresh new content, you can learn what's working in 2025. But those are the things to pay attention to when it comes to vanity metrics over real ones. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to answer any questions or comments live. All right, guys, we're back. We're going to go through any comments or questions here on this Tuesday before Turkey Day. The Tuesday before the Tuesday. I feel like next week, so many people are going to be out. I'm like, Laura and I decided this is going to be our last live for the year so we can focus on grinding out long-form content. So let's jump into the comments. What do we got?
All righty. Let's see. That's actually my nickname. But yeah.
Let's go, Justino.
I'll take it.
All
right. So Tim Drinkwater says, already pumped for 2025 relaunch.
All right, Tim. We appreciate your enthusiasm. There's going to be a lot of new stuff that we're coming out with. No pressure to Laura or Justin to figure out what that new stuff's going to be.
And then we got one from Sai. Says, love these Tuesdays.
Yes, Sai. We know you do. You come with that fire, always listening, always paying attention. That's what it's about.
She also says, data is king now.
Yeah, data is king. I feel like data's always been king. And here's what's crazy with industrial companies. I know I've said this before, so I'm just reiterating the same thing. Is like data is king with any manufacturing business for sure. Operational efficiencies, improvement, throughput, scrap rate, all that stuff. It's like data, data, data. And then marketing, they're like, well, let's do a trade show and hope that we get a lot of leads, but we're not going to track any of the results. That's what a lot of manufacturing companies do, and it's just crazy to me. So you got to base every decision off of data. I do that internally. People will be like, I don't know if it's going to work. And I'll be like, let's look at the data and see if it does, because the market will tell you if it's good or bad.
All right, and that's it. Unless you want to add anything else
The
about
last
year.
thing that I'll add is that go over to YouTube, tell your friends about it. If you get value out of this content, I want you to share it with somebody. We're trying to grow our audience. We've got big goals for 2025 for growth as a business, as a platform. We've got some proprietary products that we're coming out with, some digital products next year. One of them, the first one's going to be a lead capture software for trade shows. That is pretty exciting because the ones out there right now pretty much suck. So, and we just use one at FabTech, and I'm like, we could build a better mousetrap. Let's do it. So we're in the process of doing that. Do we have another comment?
Yes.
All right, go for it.
All right, we got another comment from Tim Drinkwater. He says, "What do you see as the single most important LinkedIn metric for an MFG business?"
So the single most LinkedIn metric for manufacturing business is the number of impressions to followers for a company page. And your goal should be 12x and above. So if you have 1,000 followers, you should be getting 12,000 impressions monthly, every single month, or north of that. That for some to be consistently and increasing, that is a tall task. But that's the most important. From a person standpoint, I don't really look at, like for my personal account, I don't really look at my number of followers or connections. I look at just impressions, just straight up impressions, because I know I don't even look at engagement percentage. And here's why. The way that the algorithm works on LinkedIn is if I post something on my personal page and I get some level of engagement, whatever their algorithm determines as good engagement, they then show it to more of my followers and more of the people that engaged with it, their followers. So if overall, if my if my impressions is increasing, I don't really care about engagement because I know my impressions is increasing, and I can set a bigger target to that. So let's say it's like 200,000 impressions in a single month. I know that there has to be a significant amount of engagement at a micro level to get the macro number of impressions up. So I'm not going to set like micro numbers. Like I want to see more than 50 comments, more than 20 likes. I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to say overall impressions. I want to see, I can determine success by saying if we're over 150,000, over 250,000 impressions a month on my personal page, that means that everything is going right. It's no different than on YouTube with our videos. We can look at subscribers, which we have goals for that, massive goals, or we could look at total watch time. So if we look at watch time on a weekly basis, like how much watch time do we have, Laura? 145 hours? Yeah, so like last week was 145 hours of watch time over the channel. Like think about that, 145 hours in 7 days across the channel from all the videos. And our goal, I think, is 180 and above per week, roughly, Laura says. And that number is going to increase. Once we get close to the goal, then we increase it. Maybe it's 225, 250 hours a week. So so we're looking at watch time, which means that people are consuming it. And then the other important thing is audience retention at 1 minute. So audience retention at 1 minute, if you can get above 70% at 1 minute, then it means you're going to see massive growth. So if you want to just look at one metric on YouTube, audience retention at 1 minute, which is typically 20, 30, 40, 50% fluctuates, but you go to the analytics per video and then add them all up and it gives you the summary. So that's something on Laura's scorecard every Monday in our L10, which is our management meeting. Laura has to report metrics that matter to her and her department, which one of them is the number of watch time hours on our channel per week, and then audience retention at 1 minute per week based on the number of long form videos that we've published. So you really got to determine like what matters most, but I hope that answers your question, Tim. All right, we're good, guys. So I'll end this with saying I hope that everybody has a great Thanksgiving and a great holiday break going into Christmas, New Year's time. Everybody be safe out there. I won't catch you live until 2025. That rhymed. You better watch out. So I hope you guys are well. If you want, message me, DM me, follow me, subscribe to YouTube, and we'll see you next year. And we're out.